At the Bells in Motley. By Agatha Christie. Mr. Satterthwaite was annoyed. Altogether it had been an unfortunate day. They had started late, there had been 2 punctures already, finally they had taken the wrong turning and lost themselves amid the wilds of Salisbury Plain. Now was close on 8 o'clock, they were still a matter of 40 miles from Marswick Manor, whither they were bound, and a 3rd puncture had supervened to render matters still more trying. Mr. Satterthwaite, looking like some small bird whose plumage had been ruffled, walked up and down in front of the village garage while his chauffeur conversed in hoarse undertones with the local expert. "Half an hour at least," said that worthy, pronouncing judgment. "And lucky at that," supplemented Masters, the chauffeur. "More like 3/4 if you ask me." "What is this place, anyway?" demanded Mr. Satterthwaite fretfully. Being a little gentleman considerate of the feelings of others, he substituted the word place for God-forsaken hole which had first risen to his lips. "Kirtlington Mallet." Mr. Satterthwaite was not much wiser, and yet a faint familiarity seemed to linger round the name. He looked round him disparagingly. Kirtlington Mallet seemed to consist of one straggling street, the garage and the post office on one side of it balanced by 3 indeterminate shops on the other side. Farther down the road, however, Mr. Satterthwaite perceived something that creaked and swung in the wind, and his spirits rose ever so slightly. "There's an inn here, I see," he remarked. "Bells in Motley," said the garage man. "That's it, yonder." "If I might make a suggestion, sir," said Masters. "Why not try it? They would be able to give you some sort of a meal, no doubt, not of course, what you are accustomed to." He paused apologetically, for Mr. Satterthwaite was accustomed to the best cooking of continental chefs, and had in his own service a cordon bleu to whom he paid a fabulous salary. "We shan't be able to take the road again for another 3/4 of an hour, sir. I'm sure of that. And it's already past 8 o'clock. You could ring up Sir George Foster, sir, from the inn, and acquaint him with the cause of our delay." "You seem to think you can arrange everything, Masters," said Mr. Satterthwaite snappily. Masters, who did think so, maintained a respectful silence. Mr. Satterthwaite, in spite of his earnest wish to discountenance any suggestion that might possibly be made to him he was in that mood, nevertheless looked down the road toward the creaking inn sign with faint inward approval. He was a man of bird-like appetite, an epicure, but even such men can be hungry. "The Bells in Motley," he said thoughtfully. "That's an odd name for an inn. I don't know that I ever heard it before." "There's odd folks come to it by all account," said the local man. He was bending over the wheel, and his voice came muffled and indistinct. "Odd folks?" queried Mr. Satterthwaite. "Now what do you mean by that?" The other hardly seemed to know what he meant. "Folks that come and go. That kind," he said vaguely. Mr. Satterthwaite reflected that people who come to an inn are almost of necessity those who come and go. The definition seemed to him to lack precision. But nevertheless his curiosity was stimulated. Somehow or other he had got to put in 3/4 of an hour. The Bells in Motley would be as good as anywhere else. With his usual small, mincing steps he walked away down the road. From afar there came a rumble of thunder. The mechanic looked up and spoke to Masters. "There's a storm coming over. Thought I could feel it in the air." "Crikey," said Masters. "And 40 miles to go." "Ah," said the other. "There's no need to be hurrying over this job. You'll not be wanted to take the road till the storm's passed over. That little boss of yours doesn't look as though he'd relish being out in thunder and lightning." "Hope they'll do him well at that place," muttered the chauffeur. "I'll be pushing along there for a bite myself presently." "Billy Jones is all right," said the garage man. "Keeps a good table." Mr. William Jones, a big burly man of 50, and landlord of the Bells in Motley, was at this minute beaming ingratiatingly down on little Mr. Satterthwaite. "Can do you a nice steak, sir, and fried potatoes, and as good a cheese as any gentleman could wish for." "This way, sir, in the coffee room. We're not very full at present, the last of the fishing gentlemen just gone. A little later we'll be full again for the hunting. Only one gentleman here at present, name of Quinn." Mr. Satterthwaite stopped dead. "Quinn?" he said excitedly. "Did you say Quinn? That's the name, sir. Friend of yours, perhaps?" "Yes, indeed." "Oh. Yes, most certainly." Twittering with excitement, Mr. Satterthwaite hardly realized that the world might contain more than one man of that name. He had no doubts at all. In an odd way, the information fitted in with what the man at the garage had said. "Folks that come and go." A very apt description of Mr. Quinn. And the name of the inn too seemed a peculiarly fitting and appropriate one. Dear me," said Mr. Satterthwaite. "What a very odd thing. That we should meet like this. Mr. Harley Quinn, is it not?" "That's right, sir. This is the coffee room, sir." "Ah. Here is the gentleman." Tall, dark, smiling, the familiar figure of Mr. Quinn rose from the table at which he was sitting, and the well-remembered voice spoke. "Ah! Mr. Satterthwaite, we meet again. An unexpected meeting." Mr. Satterthwaite was shaking him warmly by the hand. "Delighted. Delighted, I'm sure. A lucky breakdown for me. My car, you know. And you are staying here? For long? One night only? Then I am indeed fortunate." Mr. Satterthwaite sat down opposite his friend with a little sigh of satisfaction, and regarded the dark, smiling face opposite him with a pleasurable expectancy. The other man shook his head gently. "I assure you," he said, "that I have not a bowl of goldfish or a rabbit to produce from my sleeve." "Too bad," cried Mr. Satterthwaite, a little taken aback. "Yes, I must confess, I do rather adopt that attitude toward you. A man of magic. Ha, ha. That is how I regard you. A man of magic. And yet," said Mr. Quinn, "it is you who do the conjuring tricks, not I." "Ah," said Mr. Satterthwaite eagerly. "But I cannot do them without you. I lack, shall we say, inspiration." Mr. Quinn smilingly shook his head. "That is too big a word. I speak the cue, that is all." The landlord came in at that minute with bread and a slab of yellow butter. As he set the things on the table there was a vivid flash of lightning, and a clap of thunder almost overhead. "A wild night, gentlemen. On such a night," began Mr. Satterthwaite, and stopped. "Funny now," said the landlord, unconscious of the question, "if those weren't just the words I was going to use myself. It was just such a night as this when Captain Harwell brought his bride home, the very day before he disappeared forever." "Ah!" cried Mr. Satterthwaite, suddenly. Of course. He had got the clue. He knew now why the name Curdlington Mallet was familiar. 3 months before he had read every detail of the astonishing disappearance of Captain Richard Harwell. Like other newspaper readers all over Great Britain he had puzzled over the details of the disappearance, and, also like every other Briton, had evolved his own theories. "Of course," he repeated. "It was at Curdlington Mallet it happened. It was at this house he stayed for the hunting last winter," said the landlord. "Oh. I knew him well. A main handsome young gentleman and not one that you'd think had a care on his mind. He was done away with, that's my belief. Many's the time I've seen them come riding home together, he and Miss L.E. Couteau, and all the village saying there'd be a match come of it, and sure enough, so it did. A very beautiful young lady, and well thought of, for all she was a Canadian and a stranger. Ah! There's some dark mystery there. We'll never know the rights of it. It broke her heart. It did, sure enough. You've heard as she sold the place up and gone abroad, couldn't a bear to go on here with everyone staring and pointing after her, through no fault of her own, poor young dear? A black mystery, that's what it is." He shook his head, then, suddenly recollecting his duties, hurried from the room. "A black mystery," said Mr. Quinn softly. His voice was provocative in Mr. Satterthwaite's ears. "Are you pretending that we can solve the mystery where Scotland Yard failed?" he asked sharply. The other made a characteristic gesture. "Why not? Time has passed. 3 months. That makes a difference." "That is a curious idea of yours," said Mr. Satterthwaite slowly. "That one sees things better afterward than at the time. The longer the time that has elapsed, the more things fall into proportion. One sees them in their true relationship to one another." There was a silence which lasted for some minutes. "I am not sure," said Mr. Satterthwaite, in a hesitating voice, "that I remember the facts clearly by now." "I think you do," said Mr. Quinn quietly. It was all the encouragement Mr. Satterthwaite needed. His general role in life was that of listener and looker-on. Only in the company of Mr. Quinn was the position reversed. There Mr. Quinn was the appreciative listener, and Mr. Satterthwaite took the center of the stage. "It was just over a year ago," he said, "that Ashley Grange passed into the possession of Miss Eleanor L.E. Couteau. It is a beautiful old house, but it had been neglected and allowed to remain empty for many years. It could not have found a better chatelaine. Miss L.E. Couteau was a French-Canadian, her forebears were émigrés from the French Revolution, and had handed down to her a collection of almost priceless French relics and antiques. She was a buyer and a collector also, with a very fine and discriminating taste, so much so that, when she decided to sell Ashley Grange and everything it contained after the tragedy, Mr. Cyrus G. Bradburn, the American millionaire, made no bones about paying the fancy price of £60,000 for the Grange as it stood." Mr. Satterthwaite paused. "I mention these things," he said apologetically, "not because they are relevant to the story, strictly speaking, they are not, but to convey an atmosphere, the atmosphere of young Mrs. Harwell." Mr. Quinn nodded. "Atmosphere is always valuable," he said gravely. "So we get a picture of this girl," continued the other. "Just 23, dark, beautiful, accomplished, nothing crude and unfinished about her. And rich, we must not forget that. She was an orphan. A Mrs. St. Clair, a lady of unimpeachable breeding and social standing, lived with her as duenna. But Eleanor Le Couteau had complete control of her own fortune. And fortune hunters are never hard to seek. At least a dozen impecunious young men were to be found dangling round her on all occasions, in the hunting field, in the ballroom, wherever she went. Young Lord Lecan, the most eligible party in the country, is reported to have asked her to marry him, but she remained heart-free. That is, until the coming of Captain Richard Harwell. Captain Harwell had put up at the local inn for the hunting. He was a dashing rider to hounds, a handsome laughing daredevil of a fellow. You remember the old saying, Mr. Quinn? Happy the wooing that's not long doing. The adage was carried out at least in part. At the end of 2 months, Richard Harwell and Eleanor Le Couteau were engaged. The marriage followed 3 months afterwards. The happy pair went abroad for a 2 weeks honeymoon, and then returned to take up their residence at Ashley Grange. The landlord has just told us that it was on a night of storm such as this that they returned to their home. An omen, I wonder? Who can tell? Be that as it may, the following morning very early, about 7:30, Captain Harwell was seen walking in the garden by one of the gardeners, John Matthias. He was bareheaded, and was whistling. We have a picture there, a picture of light-heartedness, of careless happiness. And yet from that minute, as far as we know, no one ever set eyes on Captain Richard Harwell again. Mr. Satterthwaite paused, pleasantly conscious of a dramatic moment. The admiring glance of Mr. Quinn gave him the tribute he needed, and he went on. The disappearance was remarkable, unaccountable. It was not till the following day that the distracted wife called in the police. As you know, they have not succeeded in solving the mystery. There have, I suppose, been theories? Asked Mr. Quinn. Oh. Theories, I grant you. Theory number 1, that Captain Harwell had been murdered, done away with. But if so, where was the body? It could hardly have been spirited away. And besides, what motive was there? As far as was known, Captain Harwell had not an enemy in the world. He paused abruptly, as though uncertain. Mr. Quinn leaned forward. You are thinking, he said softly, of young Stephen Grant. I am, admitted Mr. Satterthwaite. Stephen Grant, if I remember rightly, had been in charge of Captain Harwell's horses, and had been discharged by his master for some trifling offence. On the morning after the homecoming, very early, Stephen Grant was seen in the vicinity of Ashley Grange, and could give no good account of his presence there. He was detained by the police as being concerned in the disappearance of Captain Harwell, but nothing could be proved against him, and he was eventually discharged. It is true that he might be supposed to bear a grudge against Captain Harwell for his summary dismissal, but the motive was undeniably of the flimsiest. I suppose the police felt they must do something. You see, as I said just now, Captain Harwell had not an enemy in the world. As far as was known, said Mr. Quinn reflectively. Mr. Satterthwaite nodded appreciatively. We are coming to that. What, after all, was known of Captain Harwell? When the police came to look into his antecedents they were confronted with a singular paucity of material. Who was Richard Harwell? Where did he come from? He had appeared, literally out of the blue, as it seemed. He was a magnificent rider, and apparently well off. Nobody in Curdlington Mallet had bothered to inquire further. Miss Le Couteau had had no parents or guardians to make inquiries into the prospects and standing of her fiancé. She was her own mistress. The police theory at this point was clear enough. A rich girl and an impudent impostor. The old story. But it was not quite that. True, Miss Le Couteau had no parents or guardians, but she had an excellent firm of solicitors in London who acted for her. Their evidence made the mystery deeper. Eleanor Le Couteau had wished to settle a sum outright upon her prospective husband, but he had refused. He himself was well off, he declared. It was proved conclusively that Harwell never had a penny of his wife's money. Her fortune was absolutely intact. He was, therefore, no common swindler, but was his object a refinement of the art? Did he propose blackmail at some future date if Eleanor Harwell should wish to marry some other man? I will admit that something of that kind seemed to me the most likely solution. It has always seemed so to me until tonight. Mr. Quinn leaned forward, prompting him. Tonight. Tonight, I am not satisfied with that. How did he manage to disappear so suddenly and completely, at that hour in the morning, with every labourer bestirring himself and tramping to work? Bareheaded, too. There is no doubt about that latter point, since the gardener saw him. Yes, the gardener, John Matthias. Was there anything there, I wonder? The police would not overlook him, said Mr. Quinn. They questioned him closely. He never wavered in his statement. His wife bore him out. He left his cottage at 7 to attend to the greenhouses, he returned at 20 minutes to 8. The servants in the house heard the front door slam at about 7:15. That fixes the time when Captain Harwell left the house. Ah. Yes, I know what you are thinking. Do you, I wonder? Said Mr. Quinn. I fancy so. Time enough for Matthias to have made away with his master. But why, man, why? And if so, where did he hide the body? The landlord came in bearing a tray. Sorry to have kept you so long, gentlemen. He set upon the table a mammoth steak and beside it a dish filled to overflowing with crisp brown potatoes. The odor from the dishes was pleasant to Mr. Satterthwaite's nostrils. He felt gracious. This looks excellent, he said. Most excellent. We have been discussing the disappearance of Captain Harwell. What became of the gardener Matthias? Took a place in Essex, I believe. Didn't care to stay hereabouts. There were some as looked askance at him, you understand. Not that I ever believed he had anything to do with it. Mr. Satterthwaite helped himself to steak. Mr. Quinn followed suit. The landlord seemed disposed to linger and chat. Mr. Satterthwaite had no objection, on the contrary. This Matthias now, he said. What kind of a man was he? Middle-aged chap, must have been a powerful fellow once, but bent and crippled with rheumatism. He had that mortal bad, was laid up many a time with it, unable to do any work. For my part, I think it was sheer kindness on Miss Eleanor's part to keep him on. He'd outgrown his usefulness as a gardener, though his wife managed to make herself useful up at the house. Been a cook, she had, and always willing to lend a hand. What sort of a woman was she? Asked Mr. Satterthwaite, quickly. The landlord's answer disappointed him. A plain body. Middle-aged, and doer-like in manner. Deaf, too. Not that I ever knew much of them. They'd only been here a month, you understand, when the thing happened. They say he'd been a rare good gardener in his time, though. Wonderful testimonials Miss Eleanor had with him. Was she interested in gardening? Asked Mr. Quinn softly. No, sir, I couldn't say that she was, not like some of the ladies round here who pay good money to gardeners and spend the whole of their time grubbing about on their knees as well. Foolishness I call it. You see, Miss L.E. Couteau wasn't here very much except in the winter for the hunting. The rest of the time she was up in London and away in those foreign seaside places where they say the French ladies don't so much as put a toe into the water for fear of spoiling their costumes, or so I've heard. Mr. Satterthwaite smiled. There was no, woman of any kind mixed up with Captain Harwell? He asked. Though his first theory was disposed of, he nevertheless clung to his idea. Mr. William Jones shook his head. Nothing of that sort. Never a whisper of it. No, it's a dark mystery, that's what it is. And your theory? What do you yourself think? Persisted Mr. Satterthwaite. What do I think? Yes. Don't know what to think. It's my belief as how he was done in, but who by I can't say. I'll fetch you gentlemen the cheese. He stumped from the room bearing empty dishes. The storm, which had been quieting down, suddenly broke out with redoubled vigor. A flash of forked lightning and a great clap of thunder close upon each other made little Mr. Satterthwaite jump, and before the last echoes of the thunder had died away, a girl came into the room carrying the advertised cheese. She was tall and dark, and handsome in a sullen fashion of her own. Her likeness to the landlord of the Bells and Motley was apparent enough to proclaim her his daughter. Good evening, Mary, said Mr. Quinn. A stormy night. She nodded. I hate these stormy nights, she muttered. You are afraid of thunder, perhaps? Said Mr. Satterthwaite kindly. Afraid of thunder? Not me. There's little that I'm afraid of. No, but the storm sets them off. Talking, the same thing over and over again, like a lot of parrots. Father begins it reminds me, this does, of the night poor Captain Harwell and so on, and so on. She turned on Mr. Quinn, you've heard how he goes on. What's the sense of it? Can't anyone let past things be? A thing is only past when it is done with, said Mr. Quinn. Isn't this done with? Suppose he wanted to disappear? These fine gentlemen do sometimes. You think he disappeared of his own free will? Why not? It would make better sense than to suppose a kind-hearted creature like Stephen Grant murdered him. What should he murder him for, I should like to know? Stephen had had a drop too much one day and spoke to him saucy-like, and got the sack for it. But what of it? He got another place just as good. Is that a reason to murder a man in cold blood? But surely, said Mr. Satterthwaite, the police were quite satisfied of his innocence. The police? What do the police matter? When Stephen comes into the bar of an evening, every man looks at him queer-like. They don't really believe he murdered Harwell, but they're not sure, and so they look at him sideways and edge away. Nice life for a man, to see people shrink away from you, as though you were something different from the rest of folks. Why won't father hear of our getting married, Stephen and I? You can take your pigs to a better market, my girl. I've nothing against Stephen, but, well, we don't know, do we? She stopped, her breast heaving with the violence of her resentment. It's cruel, that's what it is, she burst out. Stephen, that wouldn't hurt a fly. And all through life there'll be people who'll think he did it. It's turning him queer and bitter like. I don't wonder, I'm sure. And the more he's like that, the more people think there must have been something in it. Again she stopped. Her eyes were fixed on Mr. Quinn's face, as though something in it was drawing this outburst from her. Can nothing be done? Said Mr. Satterthwaite. He was genuinely distressed. The thing was, he saw, inevitable. The very vagueness and unsatisfactoriness of the evidence against Stephen Grant made it the more difficult for him to disprove the accusation. The girl whirled round on him. Nothing but the truth can help him, she cried. If Captain Harwell were to be found, if he was to come back. If the true rights of it were only known. She broke off with something very like a sob, and hurried quickly from the room. A fine-looking girl, said Mr. Satterthwaite. A sad case altogether. I very much wish that something could be done about it. His kind heart was troubled. We are doing what we can, said Mr. Quinn. There is still nearly half an hour before your car can be ready. Mr. Satterthwaite stared at him. You think we can come at the truth just by talking it over like this? You have seen much of life, said Mr. Quinn gravely. More than most people. Life has passed me by, said Mr. Satterthwaite bitterly. But in so doing has sharpened your vision. Where others are blind you can see. It is true, said Mr. Satterthwaite. I am a great observer. He plumed himself complacently. The moment of bitterness was past. I look at it like this, he said after a minute or two. To get at the cause for a thing, we must study the effect. Very good, said Mr. Quinn approvingly. The effect in this case is that Miss L.E. Couteau, Mrs. Harwell, I mean, is a wife and yet not a wife. She is not free, she cannot marry again. And look at it as we will, we see Richard Harwell as a sinister figure, a man from nowhere with a mysterious past. I agree, said Mr. Quinn. You see what all are bound to see, what cannot be missed, Captain Harwell in the limelight, a suspicious figure. Mr. Satterthwaite looked at him doubtfully. The words seemed somehow to suggest a faintly different picture to his mind. We have studied the effect, he said. Or call it the result. We can now pass. Mr. Quinn interrupted him. You have not touched on the result on the strictly material side. You are right, said Mr. Satterthwaite, after a moment or two for consideration. One should do the thing thoroughly. Let us say then that the result of the tragedy is that Mrs. Harwell is a wife and not a wife, unable to marry again, that Mr. Cyrus Bradburn has been able to buy Ashley Grange and its contents for £60,000, was it, and that somebody in Essex has been able to secure John Matthias as a gardener. For all that, we do not suspect somebody in Essex or Mr. Cyrus Bradburn of having engineered the disappearance of Captain Harwell. You are sarcastic, said Mr. Quinn. Mr. Satterthwaite looked sharply at him. But surely you agree? Oh. I agree, said Mr. Quinn. The idea is absurd. What next? Let us imagine ourselves back on the fatal day. The disappearance has taken place, let us say, this very morning. No, no, said Mr. Quinn, smiling. Since, in our imagination at least, we have power over time, let us turn it the other way. Let us say the disappearance of Captain Harwell took place 100 years ago. That we, in the year 2025, are looking back. You are a strange man, said Mr. Satterthwaite slowly. You believe in the past, not the present. Why? You used, not long ago, the word atmosphere. There is no atmosphere in the present. That is true perhaps, said Mr. Satterthwaite thoughtfully. Yes, it is true. The present is apt to be parochial. A good word, said Mr. Quinn. Mr. Satterthwaite gave a funny little bow. You are too kind, he said. Let us take, not this present year, that would be too difficult, but say, last year, continued the other. Sum it up for me, you, who have the gift of the neat phrase. Mr. Satterthwaite thought for a minute. He was jealous of his reputation. 100 years ago we have the age of powder and patches, he said. Shall we say that 1924 was the age of crossword puzzles and cat burglars? Very good, approved Mr. Quinn. You mean that nationally, not internationally, I presume. As to crossword puzzles, I must confess that I do not know, said Mr. Satterthwaite. But the cat burglar had a great inning on the continent. You remember that series of famous thefts from French chateaux? It is surmised that one man alone could not have done it. The most miraculous feats were performed to gain admission. There was a theory that a troupe of acrobats were concerned, the Clondinis. I once saw their performance, truly masterly. A mother, son, and daughter. They vanished from the stage in a rather mysterious fashion. But we are wandering from our subject. Not very far, said Mr. Quinn. Only across the channel. Where the French ladies will not wet their toes according to our worthy host, said Mr. Satterthwaite laughing. There was a pause. It seemed somehow significant. Why did he disappear? cried Mr. Satterthwaite. Why? Why? It is incredible, a kind of conjuring trick. Yes, said Mr. Quinn. A conjuring trick. That describes it exactly. Atmosphere again, you see. And wherein does the essence of a conjuring trick lie? The quickness of the hand deceives the eye, Mr. Satterthwaite glibly quoted. That is everything, is it not? To deceive the eye? Sometimes by the quickness of the eye, sometimes, by other means. There are many devices, the pistol shot, the waving of a red handkerchief, something that seems important, but in reality is not. The eye is diverted from the real business, it is caught by the spectacular action that means nothing, nothing at all. Mr. Satterthwaite leaned forward, his eyes shining. There is something in that. It is an idea. He went on softly, the pistol shot. What was the pistol shot in the conjuring trick we are discussing? What is the spectacular moment that holds the imagination? He drew in his breath sharply. The disappearance, breathed Mr. Satterthwaite. Take that away, and it leaves nothing. Nothing? Suppose things took the same course without that dramatic gesture. You mean, supposing Miss L.E. Couteau were still to sell Ashley Grange to Mr. Bradburn and leave, for no reason? Well, why not? It would have aroused talk, I suppose, there would have been a lot of interest displayed in the value of the contents, Wait. He was silent a minute, then burst out. You are right, there is too much limelight, the limelight on Captain Harwell. And because of that, she has been in shadow. Miss L.E. Couteau. Everyone asking who is Captain Harwell? Where did he come from? But because she is the injured party, no one makes inquiries about her. Was she really a French Canadian? Were those wonderful heirlooms really handed down to her? You were right when you said just now that we had not wandered far from our subject, only across the channel. Those so-called heirlooms were stolen from the French chateaux, most of them valuable objets d'art, and in consequence difficult to dispose of. She buys the house for a mere song, probably, settles down there and pays a good sum to an irreproachable Englishwoman to chaperone her. Then he comes. The plot is laid beforehand. The marriage, the disappearance, and the 9 days' wonder. What more natural than that a broken-hearted woman should want to sell everything that reminds her of past happiness? The American is a connoisseur, the things are genuine and beautiful, some of them beyond price. He makes an offer, she accepts it. She leaves the neighborhood, a sad and tragic figure. The great coup has come off. The eye of the public has been deceived by the quickness of the hand and the spectacular nature of the trick. Mr. Satterthwaite paused, flushed with triumph. But for you, I should never have seen it, he said with sudden humility. You have a most curious effect upon me. One says things so often without even seeing what they really mean. You have the knack of showing one. But it is still not quite clear to me. It must have been most difficult for Harwell to disappear as he did. After all, the police all over England were looking for him. They were probably looking, said Mr. Quinn, all over England. It would have been simplest to remain hidden at the Grange, mused Mr. Satterthwaite. If it could be managed. He was, I think, very near the Grange, said Mr. Quinn. His look of significance was not lost on Mr. Satterthwaite. Matthias Cottage! He exclaimed. But the police must have searched it. Repeatedly, I should imagine, said Mr. Quinn. Matthias, said Mr. Satterthwaite, frowning. And Mrs. Matthias, said Mr. Quinn. Mr. Satterthwaite stared hard at him. If that gang was really the Clondinnys, he said dreamily, there are 3 of them in it. The 2 young ones were Harwell and Eleanor L.E. Couteau. The mother now, was she Mrs. Matthias? But in that case, Matthias suffered from rheumatism, did he not? Said Mr. Quinn innocently. Oh! Cried Mr. Satterthwaite. I have it. But could it be done? I believe it could. Listen. Matthias was there a month. During that time, Harwell and Eleanor were away for a fortnight on a honeymoon. For the fortnight before the wedding, they were supposedly in town. A clever man could have doubled the parts of Harwell and Matthias. When Harwell was at Kirtlington Mallet, Matthias was conveniently laid up with rheumatism, with Mrs. Matthias to sustain the fiction. Her part was very necessary. Without her, someone might have suspected the truth. As you say, Harwell was hidden in Matthias Cottage. He was Matthias. When at last the plans matured, and Ashley Grange was sold, he and his wife gave out that they were taking a place in Essex. Exit John Matthias and his wife, forever. There was a knock at the coffee-room door, and Masters entered. The car is at the door, sir, he said. Mr. Satterthwaite rose. So did Mr. Quinn, who went across to the window, pulling the curtains. A beam of moonlight streamed into the room. The storm is over, he said. Mr. Satterthwaite was pulling on his gloves. The Commissioner is dining with me next week, he said importantly. I shall put my theory, before him. It will be easily proved or disproved, said Mr. Quinn. A comparison of the objects at Ashley Grange with a list supplied by the French police. Just so, said Mr. Satterthwaite. Rather hard luck on Mr. Bradburn, but, well. He can, I believe, stand the loss, said Mr. Quinn. Mr. Satterthwaite held out his hand. Goodbye, he said. I cannot tell you how much I have appreciated this unexpected meeting. You are leaving here tomorrow, I think you said. Possibly tonight. My business here is done. I come and go, you know. Mr. Satterthwaite remembered hearing those same words earlier in the evening. Rather curious. He went out to the car and the waiting masters. From the open door into the bar the landlord's voice floated out, rich and complacent. A dark mystery, he was saying. A dark mystery, that's what it is. But he did not use the word dark. The word he used suggested quite a different color. Mr. William Jones was a man of discrimination who suited his adjectives to his company. The company in the bar liked their adjectives full-flavored. Mr. Satterthwaite reclined luxuriously in the comfortable limousine. His breast was swelled with triumph. He saw the girl Mary come out on the steps and stand under the creaking inn sign. She little knows, said Mr. Satterthwaite to himself. She little knows what I am going to do. The sign of the bells in Motley swayed gently in the wind.